the final, desperate days of World War II, a young boy named Seita lies dying on a station floor. His last possession, a small, empty candy tin. This harrowing opening to Isao Takahata's masterpiece, Grave of the Fireflies, sets a stage not for a grand historical narrative, but for a searingly intimate tragedy. Released in 1988 by Studio Ghibli, this film stands apart from its more whimsical kin, offering no magical escapism or fantastical adventure. Instead, it pulls the viewer into a world of ashes and despair, following the story of two siblings, Seita and his younger sister Setsuko, as they attempt to survive a world that has utterly discarded them. While often labeled a powerful anti-war film, its true genius lies in its unwavering focus on the quiet, personal cruelties that flourish in the shadow of catastrophe. The film is less concerned with the spectacular explosions of bombs than with the slow and agonizing erosion of hope and humanity. In this chaos, we see Seita's first act as a protector, grabbing his sister and what few precious items they have, including their mother's money and their beloved candy tin. They are running from a literal wall of fire, a wall that represents the complete and total destruction of their past. But the true tragedy comes not from the bombs, but from their immediate aftermath. The film's most brutal and perhaps most honest scene shows us their mother, covered in horrific third-degree burns, dying in a makeshift hospital. The doctor's cold, clinical tone as he explains her condition is a chilling prelude to the indifference they will face. The swarms of flies that buzz around her grotesque wounds serve as a horrifying, visceral detail, forcing us to confront the true cost of war on the individual, stripped of all dignity and heroism. The film doesn't romanticize suffering. It makes us witness it. In this moment, Seita makes his first fateful decision. To shield Setsuko from the unbearable truth, he tells her their mother is simply sick, not dead. He chooses to bear this immense weight alone, a choice that will ultimately become the greatest threat to their survival. The pride he takes in protecting Setsuko is the very thing that prevents him from seeking the help that could have saved them both. They seek refuge with a distant aunt, and it is here that the film shifts from a critique of war to a searing indictment of human nature. The aunt is not a one-dimensional villain. She is a woman hardened by her own struggles and the crippling reality of rationing. The war has turned her into a calculating survivor, and she views the children not as family, but as a drain on her limited resources. Her cruelty is not born of malice, but of a desperate, utilitarian mindset. The constant, gnawing hunger and fear of scarcity have eroded her empathy. She relentlessly reminds them that they are a burden, that Seita doesn't work or go to school. She berates him for his laziness and for eating like a guest. Her passive-aggressive cruelty slowly starves the children, both physically and emotionally. The film argues that war doesn't just destroy homes, it breaks the social contract. In a time of immense need, empathy is replaced by a cold-hearted calculation of worth. The children's value is judged by the food they consume, not the love they share. She justifies her actions by saying they are simply pulling their own weight, but her words are filled with contempt. This constant shaming is the catalyst for Seita's fatal choice. His immense pride, an admirable quality in peacetime, becomes a deadly liability. He cannot bear the humiliation. He would rather face an uncertain future alone than endure the aunt's contempt. He gathers his sister and what belongings they have and leaves. This act is presented as a moment of defiance, an assertion of independence. But in reality, it is a tragic and prideful mistake. Seita is choosing dignity over survival, turning his back on the only consistent source of food and shelter they have, however meager it may be. The film makes it clear that their ultimate fate is sealed the moment they walk away from that house. His inability to swallow his pride, to accept his position as a dependent, is the greatest self-inflicted wound of the entire film. They move into an abandoned bomb shelter by a pond. At first, it appears to be a sanctuary, a flawed utopia they have carved out for themselves. The visuals become a brief respite of beauty, showing a lush, green landscape, a sparkling pond, and the children playing freely. The initial days are filled with a fragile, almost joyful innocence. Setsuko laughs as she catches tadpoles. They find an abandoned cache of food. For a brief, fleeting moment, it seems they might survive. And then comes the film's most powerful and heartbreaking symbol, the Fireflies. They capture the glowing insects and fill their dark shelter with a magical, shimmering light. This is a moment of pure, unfiltered joy. But like the Fireflies themselves, this happiness is beautiful and tragically temporary. Their lives are as brief as the light they give off. The next morning, Setsuko, with heartbreaking innocence, buries the dead insects in a small mound. "Why do fireflies have to die so soon?" she asks. Her question is not just about the insects. It is about her own life, about her mother's life, and about all the innocent, brief lives extinguished by a world on fire. This small burial is a chilling, perfect piece of foreshadowing, a child's instinctive preparation for a tragedy she doesn't yet comprehend. The fireflies are a profound and devastating metaphor. Their light is a symbol of the children's fleeting lives, their fragile happiness, and the inevitable cycle of life and death. The utopia in the bomb shelter begins to crumble. The stolen food is not enough. Setsuko's body, already fragile, begins to fail. The malnutrition manifests as a severe rash, her limbs thin, her movements lethargic. Her innocence is slowly replaced by a tragic madness. The most painful scenes are those of her illness-induced hallucinations. She makes rice balls out of mud, her tiny fingers shaping the earth into a semblance of the food she so desperately needs. "Look, brother," she says, her voice weak. "Rice balls." It is a moment of unimaginable sorrow, watching a child's reality break down from the sheer, unending pain of hunger. Seita, now desperate and frantic, finally takes Setsuko to a doctor who gives him the grim diagnosis: severe malnutrition. He scolds Seita, telling him she needs food and medicine. Seita withdraws all his savings from the bank. But by now, the war is effectively over, and the value of the currency has plummeted. His money is useless, a cruel irony of a system that has utterly failed him. He is helpless, a stark realization of his powerlessness. The final hammer blow comes from the external world. Seita learns the war is over. For a brief moment, there is a flicker of hope, a chance to rebuild. But then he discovers his father's naval fleet has been destroyed. His last remaining hope, the chance to reclaim his old life, is extinguished. The war he fought so hard to escape has finally, utterly defeated him. When he returns with food, it is too late. Setsuko is already dying. Her last act is one of heartbreaking, innocent love. "Thank you," she whispers, as she offers him a piece of watermelon she was saving for him. Her final breath is a small exhalation, a tiny light going out. The firefly has finally faded. In the end, Seita cremates his sister's body, placing her ashes in the small candy tin. He carries her with him, a symbol of his failure and his love, until he too succumbs to starvation on that train platform. He is not a victim of a bomb or a bullet, but of neglect, starvation, and a pride that kept him from seeking help. The film's final scene is a reunion of their spirits, healthy, happy, and forever surrounded by a sea of fireflies. They are finally together, finally home, in a place untouched by war or hunger. Grave of the Fireflies is not a film about the nobility of suffering. It is a profound, uncomfortable meditation on how easily a society can turn on its most vulnerable, and how a single prideful choice can lead to a devastating end. The film does not blame the enemy. It places the blame squarely on the breakdown of human compassion. The true grave of the Fireflies is not a physical tomb, but a haunting memory of two small, beautiful lights who burned too brightly and faded too soon, leaving behind a silence that is more powerful and more terrifying than any explosion. It is a film that will stay with you long after the final frame, forcing you to ask, in a world of fire and ash, what would you choose? Survival or dignity? Compassion or pride?